Hello and welcome to Host Planet Bitesize, the podcast brought to you by Host Planet and Hostfully. My name's James Farley, the founder of Host Planet, and our goal is to share everything you need to know about buying and managing short-term rentals. Today's guest is Bevan Thompson from Hostfully, and he's got 5 tips to share about pricing strategy. Okay, real talk now for all you hosts out there. You know that moment when your guest messages you again with, "Hey, what's the Wi-Fi code?" Or you're staring at 5 different calendars, wondering if you've accidentally double booked the cottage. Yes, we've all been there. That's why here at Host Planet, we recommend Hostfully. It's basically your rentals control center. It handles bookings across all the big platforms, syncs your calendars to ensure there are no double bookings, automates guest messages, and even creates these really slick digital guidebooks that stop all the repeat questions. Honestly, it just makes your life easier and keeps your guests happier, helping you achieve those all-important 5-star reviews. And here is a little bonus. If you're a Host Planet listener, you can get $500 off onboarding for Hostfully's property management software and 30% off digital guidebooks for life. Just hit the link in the show notes and use the codes PLANET500 for the PMS and Host Planet GB for the guidebooks. And if you'd like a proper walkthrough, there's also a link to book a demo with Frank Bosey from Hostfully. He will show you how it all works. Less stress, more bookings, sorted with Hostfully. Bevan, thank you for joining us on Host Planet Bitesize. You've got 5 pricing strategy tips to share, so take it away with tip number 1.
Righty-ho. Well, tip number 1, looking at pricing strategies is good for your rent portfolio. So the first thing to do is look at dynamic pricing. I think that's number 1 tip from me. Dynamic pricing, if you don't know what it is, it adjusts prices in real time based on demand, market conditions, and it's done by using online integrated platforms alongside a PMS like Hostfully. So the good thing about them is it sort of increases rates during high demand periods. So, and it's without your, I think the big thing is it's without your interaction with it. It happens for you sort of behind the scenes, if you like. Lower rates during low demand periods as well to make sure that you're sort of, working in the right parameters. And you can use them in, like I said, in conjunction with the PMS. We've got ones like Price Labs, Wheelhouse, Beyond Pricing, people like in our integrations page. It means you can maximize your revenue during the higher peak times, fill vacancies in slower times as well, in slower periods, but also it enables you to set borders. I always liken it when I'm talking to customers as like when you're playing bowling, like a bowling alley. You have those little gates you can put up to stop the ball going down the drain. You can set your high and low so that you always know that you're going to be making what you want. You're never going to go below the lowest price you want to make. And it means there's no constant twiddling. Like a lot of people have to spend a lot of time setting prices, looking on a calendar, what events are near me, what's going on in the area. You don't have to do that because even though the dynamic pricing system doesn't know what events are going on, it knows what rates are going on in the area. So it means that you don't have to have an events calendar on your desk as well as this, that, and the other. And it means it just takes care of your pricing sort of without your involvement. It's absolutely superb, in my opinion.
Yeah, a great tip. And I remember when I was starting out and I didn't know anything about dynamic pricing at the start. So I was just manually setting rates. And I didn't realize the events that were going on in the local area when demand was really high. And I took some bookings when Leeds Festival was going on, very, very popular near where I am. And those people who stayed at my property got a really, really cheap rate because I wasn't using a dynamic pricing tool. So yes, highly recommend
Absolutely.
that. There's some great ones that we work with on our site, Price Labs, Beyond. We've also working with Quibble as well. So check them out. And yeah, they all do quite similar things. Basically, as Bevan is saying, tracking all the demand and adjusting your rates accordingly. So fantastic tip number 1. What's tip number 2, Bevan?
Number 2, stay seasonal. A little bit like your Leeds Festival thing here. Just prices, if you're not using Price Labs or, one of those other pricing management softwares, based on the time of the year and seasonal demand is very, very important, especially if you're in the UK here. We have big, long summer holidays, 6 weeks in the summer, and you've got a seaside sort of property or somewhere in the countryside or something like that. You need to be maximizing your price strategy based on the season. You can also drop your prices for more budget conscious travelers in the off season. Try and make sure that you're filling those dates, and it's all about making hay while the sun shines. If you want a phrase to remind you, the summertime comes along, make sure those prices are up to match the demand that's out there.
Superb. Yeah, of course you want to be matching the demand according to the seasons. And usually in the UK, we've got summer, we've got Christmas and New Year, Easter. Generally, when the school summer holidays are, right?
Absolutely, and that's pretty much like the if you are going to make hay while the sun shines, also while the snow falls, maybe in the winter as well.
Absolutely. Okay, then tip number 3.
Big one. This one: understand your market and the competition around you. I think that's super important. If you research similar properties in your area, understand their pricing strategies, their occupancy rates, analyze their pricing during different times of the year as well, so it links into the previous one about seasons. And also, I think what's important is price according to what you've got. Price according to your amenities. Tell I work with Americans. I always say amenities all the time. Um, if you're giving something extra like a hot tub or a pool, or you've got something a bit quirky, ensure it's reflecting your pricing. It's not always about being lower, it's about pricing what you've got. So, that's very important. Make sure that sort of you look at your guest booking patterns as well. If you understand your market, if your guests are booking later or earlier, something that's really handy for that is key data. A lot of my customers use that to look at trends, to look at things like that. Again, it's another integration you can plug in through Hostfully. Really, really good for knowing about what the market's doing out there. And if you are setting your own prices and not using sort of a pricing management dynamic pricing tool, then key data is really, really handy for that.
Yeah, key data can be incredibly useful, especially for the bigger property managers to really track what's going on in your local area. And interesting what you say there about not necessarily just being the cheapest among your competition, because there are guests out there, and if your property looks great but is cheap, they will not book because they'll think there's something wrong with it. So price it
Absolutely.
accordingly, according to all your amenities, like you were saying. Okay, then Bevan, tip number 4.
And number 4, length of stay discounts, promotional pricing, things like that, very, very important. If you offer discounts for longer stays to incentivize guests to book for multiple nights, or offer discounts for a limited time to try and attract people during when you've got sort of inventory to get rid of, time in your diary you want to fill, that's really, really important. Weekly or monthly discounts for longer stays are a really, really good idea. Again, you can control them from within a PMS or even from a dynamic pricing tool. And use promotional rates during your slower periods. Yes, I was saying, seasonal pricing, but you're going to have some periods which are famously, notoriously quiet. Why not try the sort of discounts of those periods as well?
And interestingly, the discounts and promotions, it's something that the OTAs like Airbnb and Booking.com reward you for. Because if you're running a promotion, you're a little bit cheaper, they might be then incentivized to show your place to more people. And that kind of moves into something else where the OTAs like it when you're constantly nudging your prices and changing them according to market demand. So using a dynamic pricing tool will help, because that'll alert the algorithm, and hopefully you'll then get it seen by more potential guests. Okay, then tip number 5, Bevan.
Number 5, this one may seem obvious, but a lot of people might not have done it, so it's worth mentioning. Cost plus pricing. Calculate your costs associated with your rental, fixed and variable costs that you've got. Things like, cleaning, things like anything you can think there is a cost of a rental to you. I mean, and then add your profit margin you want to make on the top to make sure that you're always in a profit when you're renting your property. I know it sounds so simple, but people go, oh, I've set the rate of this because everyone else is setting it that. Are you actually making a profit on what you're doing? Is it actually a business, or are you just, is it a fool's errand? And that's a very important question to ask yourself. Add up all your expenses, divide by the number of nights you expect to book if you've got history from the booking in the past, if you're looking at setting your pricing again, and then add your desired profit margin on top of that and make sure that you're making money. I mean, we're all in it for business at the end of the day.
Yeah, knowing your numbers is so important, and I think we'd probably be surprised at the number of hosts and property managers who just think, "Oh, well, that sounds like an okay nightly rate. I'll take that," without realizing that they're actually making a bit of a loss, or maybe only making a few pounds. And then, in that case, what's really the point of doing it? We're all trying to make a little bit of money out of it. Okay, then, Bevan, 5 great tips there. So, dynamic pricing, look at the seasonal aspect. Understand your competition, look at those length of stay discounts, and cost plus pricing. Make sure you're making a profit. Tell us a little bit more about Hostfully and where people can find out more information.
Sure, you can pop along to hostfully.com, find out more about our award-winning vacation rentals platform, online guidebooks, Hostfully devices. There's all sorts of things going on at Hostfully at the moment. Lots and lots of developments we're working on. help you earn more in your rentals, save time, and it will elevate your guest experience with things like the guidebooks and the guest communication as well. So that's hostfully.com. Get along to there.
Superb. Check it out. There's also some special offers in the show notes. Bevan, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you for sharing those 5 tips and for joining us on Host Planet Bitesize.
Thanks for having me. Cheers.
Great to chat to Bevan Thompson there about pricing strategy. Give a dynamic pricing tool a try to make sure you're not leaving money on the table. All right, that's it for today's episode. Remember, this podcast is brought to you in collaboration with Hostfully, which is trusted by STR professionals across the globe. As a Host Planet listener, you get 2 exclusive offers. $500 off onboarding for Hostfully's property management software. Just use the code PLANET500 and 30% off digital guidebooks for life. Use the code HostPlanetGB. To grab these deals, click the link in the show notes or head to hostfully.com. For more free education, tips and trends from the STR industry, visit hostplanet.club, where you can sign up for our newsletter, listen to our podcasts, and download a suite of ebooks for hosts and property managers. That's it for today's episode. Until next time, happy hosting.